After Monday's horrific marathon bombings, federal, state, and local authorities launched a joint investigation that came to a successful conclusion last night in Watertown, Massachusetts, as you just heard. And it was an example of cooperation and coordination among law enforcement agencies. Senior correspondent John Miller, a former assistant FBI director, is here with some insight into that. John, the investigation doesn't stop with this capture. How important is it that Jahar makes it out of the hospital alive?
It's pretty important because you really need to answer the questions. Was it just you and your brother? Did you come up with this yourself? Were you radicalized by some other individual? Did you do this with a contact from overseas? It's important because the older brother made a trip for 6 months overseas. He goes to Russia, but we don't have a full picture of where else he may have traveled or what he did there. It's important to understand, is this two individuals? Is this a larger group? Or is this part of a network?
We know that Tamerlan was questioned by the FBI some time ago at the request of the Russians, correct?
That's our understanding. It was at the government is saying at the request of a foreign government, but my understanding it was the Russians. And it was to examine his ties to extremists over there.
Mm-hmm. And President Obama last night spoke to Vladimir Putin, thanked him for his help. What can we assume the Russians did in this capture?
The Russians would have been tasked, once these individuals were identified, to run all kinds of leads for us over there. Who are they? What do you have on them? What can that tell us? Family background, connections to extremists overseas. Really, in a foreign country, when you have something moving fast, you give them leads and you say, we need answers. And the FSB, which is the Russian FBI, likely sent back those answers in near real time as they were getting them.
We want information from this 19-year-old. Do you think he's likely to talk?
I do, and without knowing much about him and how that interrogation is going to go individually, the history, whether it was Umar Farouk Abdulmutallab or Faisal Shahzad in these cases, is once they are in custody in a terrorism case, generally they have a story to tell. Mm-hmm. They have a cause to promote. They have ideology they want to get out, and they generally talk.
And beyond what he willingly shares, what can be deciphered from his computers, from his own sort of digital footprint?
You know, Margaret, that is something that started the minute he was identified, and that is, as Art Cummings, who used to be head of the National Security Branch of the FBI, used to often say to me, I want to own this guy's entire world. When I'm done with him, I need to know more about him than he knows about himself. Mm-hmm. I need to know about his friends, his bank accounts, his finances, his social network. I need to know who he calls more, who he calls less. I want telephone charts, organizational charts. They will pick apart his life and his brother's life until they have a full understanding of their entire world.
Do you think there's another shoe to drop, another message to come, another event?
It's too early to say in terms of, are there other individuals? Is it part of a network? Who was the radicalizer, if it was an individual as opposed to a message online? But I think that there are indicators that there were other plans. You have a number of pipe bombs found in their residence. You had the explosives they were carrying with them, including a fully completed device, which was the same that they used on the marathon. So it is more than suggestive that they weren't finished yet. When you have to ask yourself, why was there no claim of responsibility, and why was there all this extra hardware and explosives, it suggests they had more to do.
Mm-hmm. John Miller, it's a developing story. Thank you.